Hey everybody, and welcome to Exposed. I am Joseph Shepard. Now today's guest, she came all the way from Vegas because she was introduced to many of us on season 12 of Rupaul's Drag Race, where she was the baby of the family. And she currently is hosting Drag Race France, which is coming out for its second season. It is the fabulous Nicky Doll.
Bonjour, 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 everyone.
How are you doing?
Hot, because we're in Los Angeles and it is freaking hot, but I'm feeling great. I started the Vegas residency probably like 9 days ago, and it's been honestly a dream, which is the proof that when you give good conditions to queens, they actually do a better job. We have AC, we have a great dressing room. I'm with an amazing cast.
Yes.
I'm with Coco Montrese, Alexis Mateo. I have Pangina coming up soon.
Wow.
Who else is with us? Eureka also has been doing it. Diabetes, who's incredible. We didn't know each other very much, but I grew to be obsessed with her. And many other girls too.
And then you also have like Lawrence and Kennedy, right?
Lawrence Cheney, who has been not only performing, but now is also hosting.
Oh, wow.
So imagine a crowd in Vegas listening to a Scottish accent for 90 minutes. It's pretty iconic. She's so funny and so irreverent. And I think there's something about Europeans where we have a really dry sense of humor. Mm-hmm. So I connect to her sense of humor very well.
She's hilarious. And I think it's so funny. Like, it's really cool now that you have, like you said, Pangina, and you have Lawrence, and you have yourself, and you have like queens that are international and that are ready to like show it out. And I'm like, finally, you guys are getting your shot here in the US.
It's the most international cast the Vegas residency has ever had. And they're very proud of it too, which is great. Like, production really wanted to highlight the international talents that they either discovered themselves or had other franchise discovered.
Well, we're gonna get into your franchise, season 12 as well. We're gonna get into all of that.
Oh, fuck season 12, girl.
Fuck it all. But before we do get into any of that, I want to start off with your life.
Today's video is sponsored by Bellway, and let me just tell you, I'm so excited to be partnering with them because, as many of you know, I do have Crohn's and IBS, so it does make it extremely difficult for me to have a regular digestive flow on the day-to-day. If you get what I mean, it can be very hard, very not what I expected. I have tried fiber. I've tried lots of fiber supplements, like the powders, and you put them in and you mix them with water, and that stuff doesn't always, dissolve, and you have chunks in your mouth and it's not tasting great. And I kind of gave up on the fiber. But then Bellway reached out and they're like, you know what? We now do fiber gummies. These are raspberry lemon flavor. And let me just tell you, they are so freaking good. I take these daily and my flow has never been better. They are a great and perfect supplement to be able to help with gut health. It reduces bloating, helps you maintain weight. It gives you glowing skin and helps with your hair growth. Also, I love this because there's 0 grams of sugar. So you're eating this, you're enjoying this, and you're not getting that sugar. They're also vegan, they are kosher, and they are gluten-free. There's really no way that you can go wrong with these. So click the link down below if you want to try some. You get 25% off your first order if you use code Joseph25. Just click that link right there. I literally cannot praise these enough, and I'm so happy that we have these. They're the only organic fiber gummy on the market. You gotta try these. We're gonna get back to the video, but seriously, click that link down below, get your 25% off, and enjoy the rest of the video.
You were born and raised in France, right?
Yes, correct.
And then you moved all over.
Yep. So my mom, I think, always wanted to travel the world, and then she got pregnant, and she was like, well, I'm still gonna do that, bitch. So she would, every time she would get bored of a place, would just pack our bags, sell everything, and we'll just start it over again.
Goodness.
So I was born in Marseille in the south of France. Then around 6 years old, we moved to the Caribbean in Saint Martin, and then, which was amazing. And then when I was 12, my mom was like, yep, all right, I'm bored. And so we moved to Morocco for 7 years, until I went back to France at 18 and said, you know what, you're crazy. I'm going to let you do this on your own. I have study to follow. And went back to Paris. But when I went back to France, I literally felt like a stranger, like an immigrant, because I might have been French on paper, but I've barely spent, besides holidays, really lived there. So I didn't know how to, go to the city hall and like make a basic administrative things. So it was a very interesting 2 first years in Paris, for sure.
Did you have to learn more than one language? Like, how did all of the languaging work?
So the good thing is that she always found destinations that were French speaking.
Okay.
So the French side of Saint Martin, it's an island divided in two, and you have a French side and a Dutch side. And Morocco had a relationship with France for the longest time, so they do speak French as well.
Okay, so it wasn't like too bad. That would have been
No.
awful if you just got dropped off at random places with totally different languages.
Right. Well, I had to learn Arabic so people could stop talking shit about me because I was so femme. So I did learn a little bit of Arabic too.
Where were you when you decided to come out?
Well, the thing with me is I was so flamboyant that I was always out.
Okay.
But I decided to come out actually when I went back to France at the age of 18. Because in Morocco, as much as I felt like I was well welcomed and it's an amazing culture with incredible people, legally you're not allowed to be gay. And so I just didn't want to, push the button and kind of like have a target on me for no reason. So I decided to keep that truth for later. But I was watching queer as folk and a lot of porn in my bathroom, in my bedroom. And my bathroom too. I give that away. I didn't plan on doing that. Now you know where I was doing it. Hi, Mom.
So you how did you end up in San Francisco?
That's a great question. Well, technically, I felt like I was a big fish in a small pond. I was a full-time makeup artist at the time.
Okay.
And I just wanted to challenge myself even more. And so I moved to San Francisco because I wanted to start all over again. But I hated San Francisco.
Really?
I love San Francisco as a tourist, but as an artist, as someone that is more like in the underground side, it's not the city that it used to be. Now it's more like a tech dorm. And San Francisco, I love you. The drag scene is incredible there, and there's so many artist people. But y'all know that Dropbox, Airbnb, Facebook, Twitter, all of that fucked it up. The city is so expensive now, and all the artists left. They either moved to the city near San Francisco because it's just too expensive.
It's too expensive.
Too expensive. It's as expensive as New York. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah. So it wasn't for me, and then I decided to challenge myself and move to New York, and that's where I was like, okay, this is where I can see my whole life spent here.
When you were in New York, did you already start drag, or when did you actually start developing?
Funny thing, I was doing drag in Paris and I was pretty successful there already, but when I moved to the US, I never thought that drag would continue to be a business life. I was like, I'm going to continue doing it for Halloween and Christmas, and once in a while I'll just, cross-dress. But I felt like, America is like the land of the drag queens, like Rupaul's Drag Race and Drag Brunch. All of these things are new in my country, and I'm helping through my franchise to bring that up, that culture. So I never thought like, I'm going to be at the level, like people are going to want to hire me over an American queen. But then I started getting in drag and go out for fun, and then I got attention, and people were like, who are you?
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, am I actually doing it well? And then I went to the Cafe, which is a gay club in San Francisco, and the local queen was at the mic and said, don't forget, next week, a drag competition, blah, blah, blah. And my boyfriend at the time was saying like, well, you should apply. And I'm like, well, I'm not an amateur. I'm not going to do. And then she said, $500 cash prize. And I said, give me the pen. So I signed up. I won. And then I became Miss Cafe, and that's how I started to get the attention of the other establishments and started to work around not only San Francisco, but California. And yeah, that's how it started. And I realized, okay, Nicky, regardless of whatever I want to do of her, she's still going to be around, and somehow she brings me the good amount of attention for Carl to thrive, Like, as a makeup artist, I was working for a lot of different brands, like I did campaigns for Rimmel, for Sally Hansen, but one day the photographer, who was a little bitchy, kind of like threw me under the bus to the art director, and she said, you should see Carl in drag. Something that you need to know is in the makeup industry, when you're a drag queen and a makeup artist, you have a tendency to kind of hide the drag side because you don't want to scare away the client. They're going to be like, he's going to be too heavy-handed. Yeah. He's going to be tacky, and and so the art director was like, well, show me. So I had no choice but to do it. And I showed her, and she said, wait, is that you? And I was like, yeah. And she said, okay, well, we need to talk after the gig. And I was like, here we go. I'm going to get fired. All right, let's do it. I hated the photographer the whole day. And then I went to the art director's office, and she said, I think I need you because we lost CoverGirl. 2 years ago, and we're trying to get them back. And they've been looking for a makeup artist that can really use pigment, but in an editorial way. And I think given what you can do on Rupaul and what you can do on you should be the perfect match. So then they challenged me, they brought the client, we did a test, and we got the client back.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, regardless of what I want to do, Nicky is still going to be a great weapon for me to thrive. So that bitch, and then she took over, and now I'm just a secondary persona. Well, look at you, interviewing her, and I have to be under all of this.
Well, like you said, like you were being noticed amongst, the drag community and also in the makeup community.
Yeah.
When did you actually start putting the brush to your face?
The first time that I've been stealing my mom's makeup for the longest time and using scarf of hers as a ponytail. And, I think we all did that. Did we? Did you do that too?
I didn't do a ponytail. I just wore the shoes and I would heel around.
Gotcha. But the first time that I actually decided to do it was Pride 2010 in Paris. And mind you, keep in mind, I just came back from Morocco. So I was very shy, very innocent as a gay person. Still had a lot of trauma and things that I was hiding under. And that day I was like, you know what? It's Pride. All the gays that I know are gonna wear like a jockstrap and some fucking red wings and be a slut, And I wanted to, kind of like Lindsay Lohan, that just wanted to do Halloween really well. Like I wanted to really be gay. And I was like, since I'm femme, I'm a faggot, and I'm all of this, let me just be it. Let me be as femme as I can and really give you what you've been calling me the whole time. So I decided to create her. I will not show you photos because maybe she was more The Rock than Megan Fox. But her name was Megan because that was the goal initially. And I realized that day through the parade that the energy that I was getting back from people was completely different than what Carl was getting, even though I was the same person.
Yeah.
So then sociologically, I was very inspired. I was like, wait, there's something to do here. I can open doors that Carl would not be able to because he was, put in a box. She's not in the box. She's already a freak. And for some reason, people open up to freaks more.
Yeah.
And so I started to use this as a weapon and also as a vessel to express myself artistically and to also to come at peace with all the trauma that I had. Because it's kind of like I looked under the bed and be like, come out. And I put her on. And then you look at the people that criticize you and it's like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Because I'm so proud of it. What are you going to say? That I'm femme? Yeah, I'm a drag queen, bitch. And then I really, freed myself from all of this bullshit.
So would you say that you starting drag was actually helped you to realize who you were as Carl?
I said on season 12 for the promo, and the sentence just came out of my mouth like this without thinking, but I think this is the best way I can express it, is I've learned to become a man while dressing up as a woman, because by doing that, it really allowed me to be, okay, now you have a way to express yourself. Now you can erase all of the trauma. Now who is Carl? And by creating Nicky, I gave space for Carl during her time off to really express himself. And that's when I managed to really separate both of them. I just needed a way to express myself, and she became that.
And I love that, a drag persona is actually just you being yourself, pushing yourself to the max and pushing in things that you would never necessarily do. So to really that's awesome that you kind of found yourself through that. Yeah,
it was very therapeutic. And I think I always say to people oh, do you have an advice for baby drag queens or things like this? And I just figure out why you're doing drag. You can interview many queens and they're all going to give you different reasons, And mine was to really find myself. And then it just became fun, and I was like, wait, I actually love the stage. I always wanted to be a star, be the male version of Lady Gaga. Well, I became the faggot version of it. I'm sure she would be proud of that.
So you take your drag persona and you end up on season 12 of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yep.
This is literally in January of 2020. It is announced. It is announced 2 months before this pandy that started. How did you come to get on the show? Had you auditioned before, or was this your first time auditioning?
I auditioned once.
Once?
I auditioned once. I was half drunk. It was 1 a.m. and I kept looking on Instagram, all the stories of the girls, it's out, you need to send your email. And I was rather new in the New York drag scene, and I was like, let me see what the process is like. So I spent an hour and a half answering all these questions and everything. And at 2 a.m., I think, I finally hit the bottom of the page that said submit. And I was about to go on the cross, and I was like, oh, fuck it, what do I have to lose? I'm just going to... So I submitted it, went to bed, got the email the second day saying, congratulations, you're going to the next step, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, what have I done?
Yeah, what did you do?
What have I done? And then I had to sit down and figure out, do I want to do that? Like, am I open? Am I available? Am I comfortable enough in my own shoes in English?
Yes.
To be confident enough to go against American egos, different than from Europeans, and just do it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't have the answer to all these questions, but I won't be able to answer these questions unless I do it. And so I challenged myself and did it. And we saw how this came out. But I wouldn't change anything because it just felt like that was the process that I had to go through to really capture enough anger for not making it all the way to the end and embrace myself as the artist that I always wanted to be, have the confidence that I needed, take all the advice that I got from the judges or learn from the other girls working during the competition, and then became who I am now. And so I don't think I would have become as successful as I am now if I was not a proud third out of season 12. It really shaped me. It really did.
Well, it also it kind of gave you a way for the fans to be able to see who you were, but also at the same time they wanted more.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see what else you could do, which is always, kind of like the reward of getting out early.
Yeah.
Is that you don't necessarily showcase everything, so the fans want to see more. You did wonderful in your season, and you even had from you doing your makeup and everything, you had World of Wonder and Rupaul bring you on for SNL to do Pete Davidson's makeup.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What was that even like, getting that phone call?
I got the call, and then World of Wonder told me, hey, are you available that date? And I said, sure, yeah, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, Ru is hosting SNL, and he wants Pete to look incredible, and he wants you to come and do the makeup. And I said, what do you mean me? Did he specifically ask me? And he said, yes, he wants you to come and do it. So pressure.
Yeah.
Initially, when they started the sentence and said, so RuPaul is hosting SNL, I was like, do not ask me to do RuPaul's makeup because I'm going to say no. And so I was like, ugh. And then they said Pete Davidson, and I said, oh, you know what? Why not? And so I did. I went, and what I remember from it was that, first, Pete was absolutely incredible. Would leave his chair every 7 minutes to go smoke a blunt, come back. So by the end, I was high myself, just by all the air around me.
Fumes.
But he really played the game perfectly. But what I remember the most, and something I will cherish, because not a lot of girls actually had that experience, is that I get to spend a whole day with Ru. Yeah. And not just with Ru as a host or Ru as the pillar of this franchise and this trendsetter, but Ru as an artist, as a bitch that is doing it, as a hustler, because she arrived as a booked queen, and that was something that was truly inspiring. And honestly, if people would see her work, everything else about her would make so much more sense. Yeah. Because she is so sharp, so quick. She knows exactly what she wants. I remember the people from SNL, it's SNL.
Yes.
They're putting the lighting, and she said, no, so this is not gonna work, baby, and always very kind, but assertive, which made me hard a little bit. So she was like, baby, this light was not work, I need this light right here. And then they started to say yes, but she said, baby, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm telling you, put that panel, put it right here. So then they all change everything that they set it up, and then she looked incredible. Yeah. She knows what she wants, and she's gonna command. And that's a skill that I did not have on season 12. I would just follow and be as kind as possible with the producers, because I never wanted to rub them the wrong way, or be like, oh, she's a needy bitch, she's never wanna do. But the thing is, you can find a way to say no to something that someone wants you to do, but still defend yourself in a respectful way so they can be inspired by your confidence. I've learned that after season 12. I was too kind, too nice, okay, I'll do that. A little bit on the right, sure. That didn't, I left. So
was that the moment that you would say clicked for you, that then you were like, I need to be a little bit more assertive?
Yes, I'm a very visual person, and so being able to see someone in action was truly inspiring me. And she gave me a great advice. So at the end of the day, I decided to go to the producers and said, I want to say hi to RuPaul. Because RuPaul was working, I was on the side. And I was like, fuck that, she's in the room. Like, I want to talk to her. And so they're like, sure. So they went to talk to Ru and they said, hey, Nikki wants to say hi very quickly. And she's like, yeah, sure. So she was on that, like studio chair, like the very high ones from the back with this big blonde afro. And I was like, oh, here we go. And I said, hi, Ru, I just wanted to say hi. You were incredible. And she said, how are you doing? We started talking. And back then, so we were like, what, 3 or 4 years ago? She said, would you do Vegas? And I said, yeah, if I have enough time to rehearse, I would love to do it. So it's kind of like a full circle moment that now I'm in it.
Yeah.
And then she told me, she said, one advice I can give you, because that was before season 12 even aired, do not read the comments. And then she said, and if you ever do, and you see a comment that really hurts your feelings, don't forget, these people elected Trump. So true. And that really helped, girl. Like, she is caring, and she does care about the girls. I think she got a lot of shit from previous seasons and girls that have been, kind of like backstabbing, and she kind of like protect herself. But I do appreciate at least the experience that I've had with her. She's been, cordial, loving in a very far way,
Yeah.
but very inspiring. And now I get to, represent the brand in France, and it's been, I think I'm using all of this plus who I am as a person to lead Drag Race France to the success that it is.
Back to, we'll get to Drag Race France in 2 seconds, but I just want to know from you, you were on season 12, and season 12 was a very controversial season.
Yep.
I'm not going to dibble and dabble in the pie of cherry, but I would like to know from you, when you were recording and when you were filming, and then the edit that you saw on the television, was there a lot of difference than what was actually happening, like, that you thought was going to air compared to what did air? Like, did you feel like your season had changed?
I don't think this season had changed. I think that you just don't get to see a lot of Sherry. They've tried to really, limit the damage out of respect for the victims, out of respect for us as well. And maybe for her too, because she would have probably get even more hate by being more on TV. But what I can tell you, and that's maybe not something that everybody wants to hear, Sherry was incredible. Sherry was, to me, probably the winner of the season. She was just a genius mind. And sometimes when you have that much intelligence and that much resource, it can go a different route. But yeah, I always loved who she was as an artist. I always loved talking to her. She had that evil side that you could see. I never thought it would go that far, and I really feel sad for the people that have been hurt. And I feel sad for her because obviously I know that she regrets deep down what happened. I mean, who would not?
Yeah. Unless
you're really stupid. Like, I'm sure she regrets. But what really hurt me is that it's such a waste of talent because she is just out of this world. But then, yeah, we got what happened, and I still stayed in touch for a little bit with her because for me, regardless of what is right, what is politically correct, and all this bullshit, this was a human being that I shared a very special experience with. She has not done that to me, and as the person how I've been raised is if you need me, I will be here, even if it's just an ear to hear you talk, But I would have never want to wake up in one morning and see an article that said Sherry committed suicide. And realize that I was not here. I just turned my back like everyone else, So we stayed in touch for a little bit, and I've tried to give her advice, and I know that she was very intense on going to therapy and really, trying to heal. So yeah. That was a long answer for saying that it was a different season. What happened?
Oh, I mean, you answered it well, and you answered a lot of questions on there, so I don't really have to ask that much more. But I do think that was such an interesting season because it was the height of the pandemic. And I'm sure that you, as an individual as well, now everybody's at home. Now everybody's watching a lot more than probably previous seasons.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of flack? Did you get a lot of praise? What was the actual reception that you were getting?
Well, just to end on the Sherry chapter, I was part of the lucky ones because we had a first premiere without this all blew up. So Gigi, me, Heidi, I remember the girls, I'm sorry, it's coming. The first group, were able to really start the competition at a very high level. We had Nicki Minaj as a guest. We had I'm That Bitch, who was one of the, honestly, I think one of the best songs that ever came out of the franchises, and people really loved it. Then week 2, Jen, Aiden Zane, Jada, Dahlia, I think that was it, and Rock'em Sakura didn't get to have that much because the whole Sherry Pie drama just completely tarnished the whole thing because she was in that group.
Yeah.
So that was, I felt really bad for them. But then when it comes to being aired during a global pandemic, it was frustrating because we saw our calendar just being fully booked. Not just because we were a quarantine season, I think we got a lot of attention from the get-go. People just, for some reason, loved us right away. And so I saw, my calendar being full with like Australian tours and a tour in Asia and like places that I've always wanted to go. And all of a sudden, just all of this went on hold. But like you said, we realized that, well, everybody's stuck at home, everybody's depressed and stressed and far from their loved ones. We are the only beacon of hope they got once a week, and we entertained them. And then it became an asset even more, because we became like the golden season that people really cherish. So yeah, we feel like hero. Maybe more Brock than other, but.
Did you do any of those gigs like afterwards that were like people would drive to you? Did you do any of those, like the drive and the drag thing?
I haven't done drive and drag, but baby, I've done everything else. I've done cyber kind of strip show looking drag shows on fucking Zoom, trying to dance on a carpet with no heels because there's neighbors, with online tip and all of this bullshit, like streaming of a lip sync that I recorded in my bathroom. It was just nonsense. But I was like, it's either this or I'm not doing any of it, and I'm not helping the fans to be entertained, and I'm also not challenging my creativity. But yeah, I mean, try to fucking shoot a reunion in your own apartment with all of this being shipped to you with like guidelines to follow, and I'm like I was the opposite of MacGyver. Like I did not know which cable was going. It was just insane. But we did it.
I also love the rumor, and this is not about you, but it is about Gigi, and I'm pretty sure it's true. I love that you guys were all sent all this stuff to do.
Yeah.
And she went to a studio and recorded her stuff, and then was told no.
So that was for the
Finette lip sync, right?
The final lip sync. I can't confirm or deny. Like I do not know. I've heard that rumor.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently she did that. But I know that the guideline was it has to be in your apartment. And I remember Jada freaking out because she was like, it's one thing to be a public figure. It's another thing to welcome the whole world in your living room. And she was like, well, maybe my furniture is not at the level that I want them to be. So she was freaking out about that. And she made it work. Like she really made it work. And I'm glad that people are realizing the star that she is, because, she was hated for a while being like, well, Gigi was robbed and all this bullshit. Gigi is incredible as well. And I think I could have seen all three of them for their own reason to be the winner. But the tenacity that Jada had throughout this competition, given where she comes from or the resources that she had, is truly something that we should applaud.
Yeah.
And she had 1 week less than everyone else to do all her outfits.
Because she was brought in, right?
She was a plan B. I think initially Tamisha was supposed to be Jada. So then Jada was called and she was like, am I doing it? Am I not doing it? And she was like, well, yeah. And she sewed everything. So just for that, if they would have called me a week after, I would have said, well, F you, I can't do it. She did it. So the fact that she won makes it even more iconic, I think.
Well, let's get into something that's very great that you're doing. Drag Race France.
Oh, okay.
You were hosting, and let me just tell you that when I watched the first season of Drag Race France, I was very, very excited for you, but you killed it. And I think that you did so well that other international franchises, it's my opinion, but sometimes they struggle with the hosting and how a host can relate to talent and how all of this can happen. But I believe because you had been in the ringer, because you understood what was happening, you had a special connection with these girls. You had great connection with your fellow judges. What did it feel like when you got it?
When I got it, I was worried because the only example that I had was Ru, you know, and I was like, well, how am I going to be able to channel this type of energy when the show is not based on my career? Like RuPaul's Drag Race is based on the things that she had to do in her career. So I didn't know, and I was overthinking as usual. But then once I got there, after the first episode, I was like, I can only be me. And this is my franchise, and these girls, at the end of the day, I tried to make this my own. I said, at the end of the day, I am the most successful French queen in the whole world, period. So I am the only one that has an international career that really do what I do on a daily basis. So what I'm going to try to do is not to try to teach them how to become RuPaul. I'm going to try to teach them how to have the career that I have. And the advice that I'm going to give them might not be the ones that Ru would give, but as a fellow French queen, these are the ones they need to hear.
Yeah.
And so I just adapted it to be me. And I think also the fact that, you know, I failed at Drag Race and was not a winner gave me the empathy that I needed to be able to help these girls to give their best, but also feel like they're supported. It was less of a Hunger Game type of vibe and more of like a, you know, big sister Project Runway with that old man coming and say, you're going to do great, honey. That was more of what I wanted to do. And I was worried that it would die down the whole drama aspect of the competition. But at the end of the day, if there's talent and if the girls are giving their all, do you really need people to fight at each other? We didn't have any of that in season 1. You still left it.
Yeah. Looking at RuPaul and how RuPaul hosts Drag Race, did you say at all, you know what, Ru does this great, but I want to do something a little different that's more to me? Did you have anything that you like brought that you felt like you really wanted to showcase that maybe the US version didn't?
Well, the way I can answer this is I think what I've done, US Drag Race did it. Ru is at his 16th season plus 8 All-Stars, an international franchise. I think at some point it is just humanly impossible to still feel genuinely connected with the whole cast. That was my first season. So I really gave as much as she probably gave on her first season. But I definitely wanted to make sure that when a girl leaves the runway, she has a full understanding of what she didn't do and how she can improve, rather than telling her you could have done better without understanding how she could have done better. Because these are the things that I wish I would have get sometimes, not just from RuPaul but the other judges. Sometimes you get a judgment on what you did, not really a solution to it.
Yes.
Because I'm sure they're expecting you to find out, but it's such a pressure cooker that if I can help a little bit, let them do it. And it's going to benefit everybody. The show, their career, time to waste on trying to figure out what was gone in and not spiraling. So, yeah, I just gave a little more feedback to the girls.
I know too, like one of the big things is that when you were announced as a host, which I'm sure you read comments, even though RuPaul told you
No,
not
I don't,
to.
Ru. I promise I listened.
And there were people that were saying, you know what, she didn't place first, second, third, whatever. She shouldn't be hosting this franchise. Why is she getting this?
Yeah.
What were you thinking during all of that? Did you feel like you proved them wrong once it came out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember you asked me this question at DragCon.
Yeah.
And I answered the thing like, well, no host of any franchise really won the show. But I'm glad that I really showed them. But at the same time, I can't really blame the fans, because what they know of me, if they don't follow me on a daily basis, they just know season 12 Nicky Doll. And there was not a lot of me in it. So if you really get to know who I am, if you came to see my show, if you saw me perform, if you heard me on the mic, you would not think that. And so the people that were writing this are just people that don't know me. And why would I care about what people have to say about me if they don't even get to know me, you know? So if they watch season 1, they will realize that it's a whole different queen that they've seen on season 12. It's an actual queen, not just the shadow of a little twink trying to do drag that got kicked out too early.
And of course, like your outfits have been incredible on Drag Race France. Do you have a say-so in what gets put on you, or are you...
Every single look that you saw was either sketched by me or referenced by me, or I worked with my team to do it. Everything is my wardrobe. Nothing was put on me. There was actually a moment where we were trying with production to figure out budgets, and they were like, well, we're French. Like, you have all the couture houses. Like, we can dress you with everybody. And I said, well, I'm not just a host. I'm a drag host. I'm not a hanger. You can't just put fashion. Even if I am quote unquote a fashion queen or I have interest in fashion, I can't just show up on the main stage wearing couture archive Jean-Paul Gaultier, because how do I express my drag? That's the only time in the show, in each episode, where I get to be me. And so it was very important that they unlocked that fucking budget and for me to create these looks. And so I really gave on season 1 and season 2 the essence of what I always thought Nicky Doll was, which is the perfect intersection between 90s runway and anime, you know, and I always try to give that vibe to it, which is like a little whimsical, but also very cunty 90s Muglerian type of girl.
You just said anime, and I know that you are a big
I'm a
nerd. You're
yes.
a nerd at heart.
Yes.
Does the nerd influence your drag at all?
Absolutely. Nikki was designed watching all the villain in Sailor Moon, like these powerful women that always looked way more beautiful than this vanilla-ass first character, with beautiful cinched body and like boobs and shape and gorgeous jewelry. I was always attracted to them, like these evil queens, because I always was also very attracted to understand. I'm kind of like a psychopath, but I was always trying to understand why they got to that. Like, why did they become evil? Because behind every evil character, there's always a broken story, a broken heart, and there's human behind it, you know? And so I was always drawn to these people. And so she became that villain, the ultimate villain that I wanted to see on my screen. I just put it on my face.
Well, I have some fan questions for you. Some
Okay.
fans want to know some things. So, do you have any input on Drag Race France, let's say into the challenges, the guest, or the lip sync songs?
The lip sync songs is a list that I see with the producers. I'm really good friends with both producers. Like we developed a really strong friendship. So I do see the lip syncs, and sometimes I'm like, oh no, I don't think that one is great. They will keep the one that they liked, okay? But I do see it. Mini challenges. I did give some feedback on season 1, and then I'm sure that they took some of it for season 2. They also would ask, like, I really wanted to have a say on like the runway category, because that's what I love the most. So they did listen to some of them, and we do work together, but they still want to make sure that they're still the one producing, you know. And I never want to overstep on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
But I do like
you still
whisper
like to put it in there
at the producer's ears.
What previous contestant would you want to join you as a guest judge spot on Drag Race France?
Well, Jackie Cox speaks French, and I think she would be really fun to bring on. I would love Katya to do it. Katya would be incredible. She does speak a little bit of French as well. And Sasha Velour. I think Sasha would be Sasha in any franchise would be such a great asset for the franchise.
So much, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get tired of being the token French queen?
I was tired of it after season 12 and before Drag Race France. I was very eager for Drag Race France to air, because I would finally not be the only French queen, you know, and the oui oui baguette, like all these like stereotypes. Like, you know, I'm not mad at the fans for saying it and like basically giving me what they know of my culture, but I'm so much more than Voulez-vous coucher avec moi, Ratatouille, and all this bullshit, you know? So it's funny a little bit, but then I'm like, it gets
to a point.
It makes you sound stupid more than a joke at my culture, you know what I mean? So mostly because Moulin Rouge is a freaking American movie.
Yeah.
Ratatouille is a Disney movie. It's like, none of this is from me. Like, Pepe Le Pew, like, come on!
During All Stars 8, you came out as a lip sync assassin. You have voiced that you did not get to pick that song, and you would not have picked that song. If you could have picked any song, what would you have picked?
Euphoria by Lauren would have been great for emotion, and if I wanted to dance my ass off, I would have done Fuego by Eleni Ferreira, who represented Cyprus in Eurovision. I need a song that moves.
Yeah.
Like, people, for some reason, expect me to be like so stiff, but I actually learned to dance in the Caribbean. It's like I need some type of sexiness in the song to be able to channel Nikki. And Boots Are Made for Walking was just not that. It was just not that.
I was telling Laganja, I was like, I feel like Alexis Michelle channeled Nancy Sinatra, and I feel like you channeled Jessica Simpson's version.
I heard that too. Yes. I wanted to make it like very flirty sensual, sexy, and more of like someone that is like whispering you like dirty things in bed, rather than, I don't know what she was doing. It was cute, but that's not where I would have gone myself. Oh, and she did a split, of course. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into, as we were closing all this out, let's get into what is coming up next for you. You just mentioned a documentary series, right?
Yes.
And what is that?
So I was approached by a production team right after season 12, where they wanted to do a documentary about me. They wanted to follow me around the world, to see me perform in different clubs. And I said to them, if Beyonce has been doing Crazy in Love for 20 years, what do you think I'm doing on the road? Like, you're gonna see me wear the same outfits, do the same songs to different crowds. It's boring after the third episode. And I was very affected at the time by the death of Anthony Bourdain. I was really obsessed with everything that he did, who he was as a person, because for an American guy, he's very irreverent, which I love. And so I was rewatching it as I was talking on the phone, and I said, well, if you want to do like a show about me around the world, like why don't we do like a travel show? And as I was talking, the ideas were coming to my head. I said, oh, it can be a travel show, and it can be about drag, and I can meet queer people and see what it means to be queer over there, and and I can perform the local way with a local queen, so it's like culture celebration instead of appropriation. And the guy on the phone was like, yeah, we'll call you back. 2 years, nothing. And I forgot about it. And I was like, well, they're finally not going to call me, like, stop bothering me with, like, trying to write a book. Or, like, they were all trying to capitalize on that. And I was not inspired by any of the proposal. 2 years after, he calls me back. 2 years after, he calls me back. And he says, hey, Nicky, this is Cyril. There's an open call for a docuseries on the French BBC, basically, who's, like, a French public network. We're going to pitch your idea. So I cackled at him on the phone and I said, yeah, go ahead. Good luck with that. And we did, they received 236 pitch. They kept 5. I was one of the 5. That was before Drag Race France, so they didn't really know what I would become. And I had to meet them. So I went to meet them in person, and I was like, how am I going to convince them that this is something we have to do? And I decided to just be myself. And I was like, look, I know that, for example, a trans woman in India is seen as a goddess, where she can be, stoned to death in another country. So it is important for me to, instead of us having an opinion about what non-binary and what queer and what gay and what lesbian and what drag is, maybe we can go around the world and figure out what it is for everybody else, instead of thinking that we know everything. And instead of trying to teach people things about other people, maybe just give the mic and let them explain their story. And so the guy was like looking at me and he said, well, where would you go first? And I always wanted to perform Bollywood. I grew up watching Bollywood and it was my dream. But I know as a French queen, I just can't just go on stage with a sari and be like, voila, and be like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But if I go to India and I do it with an Indian queen and she accepts for me to come on stage with her, then I can. So then I was like, India. And they're like, okay, you got it. And I said, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, we'll go shoot the pilot and then we'll see. So I went to India, did it, and they loved it. And I had my whole season. And so it's airing in France in August, but streaming platforms are in the talk to buy it as well. And so it will air worldwide soon.
How does it feel?
Amazing. I think being the host of Drag Race France is something that I'm very proud as Nicky Doll, as someone that is part of this phenomenon in Drag Race. But Carl is incredibly proud of that show because I think it's his show. You see more of me outside of drag in the show with a backpack and talking and sweating in the fucking train and stuff like this because I am a globetrotter. I love to travel. And then you get to see her in better condition at the club, fully glamorous, connect with sisters from around the world, even though sometimes we needed a translator. And I learned a lot from their perspective of drag as well. And so you get to see not just drag, but you also learn a lot about queer people, but also their struggle based off of their culture. And it was truly fascinating. And I think it's going to help us to connect even more as a community over other things than just Drag Race.
Yeah, and it's just cool, like you said, you kind of get your Carl moment. You get to have the moment where you as an individual get to do things that probably you never thought that you were going to do.
Yeah.
So you have that coming out. What else do you have coming down the pipeline?
Well, I released a song last year, and it was more of like a pop, flirty, disco reminiscent, like Dua Lipa, Kylie Minogue vibe. And this time I'm releasing a dark pop track, very 2009, more connected to the villain side of Nicky Doll, and I'm very excited for it. I shot the music video a few weeks ago, and it's coming out this summer, so I'm excited for people to see it.
Ooh, so you're just like, you have your hands in everything.
Yeah, baby. As long as I'm paid, I'm here. I always say that. No, but I also have a lot of passions. Like, I love to explore many different things because we just live young and you never know. I love to plant different seeds and you never know what's going to take. And this year, everything took at once. So there's not a lot of sleep, but I'm just so lucky and thankful to just get to do all of that. So complaining for lack of sleep, sure, but who can say that she's always on a plane doing something and, you know, and not just things for her, but meaningful things for people to get inspired as well. And so that's, I mean, it sounds like Miss Universe, but I do look as good as her. But it's truly something that I cherish and I'm happy. And I know it's a chance and a privilege. And I don't know for how long. Yeah. So might as well just ride the wave, you know?
And take it while you can.
Exactly.
Well, my last two questions for you. As the show is called Exposed, I have all of the girls expose something that happened on their season of Drag Race. You can make it even Drag Race France if you want, that happened behind the scenes that you wish would have made it to camera.
Let me think. Yes, well, it's something more funny, because I think I try to remember only the good things. But I peed on myself on season 12.
What?
Yes, on the first episode, I had a corset on top of a corset.
Okay.
And I'm sure you heard many stories about the girls not being able to go to the bathroom quickly enough. The judging and the deliberations were like probably 4 hours, and I just couldn't hold it anymore. And I was destroying Jackie Cox's hands when the top two was doing their lip sync, and I literally started to pee. And so I can feel it, and I'm like, shit, they're gonna see it through the tights and everything. And so then finally they're done. We have to go to do Untucked. And they're like, no, you can't go. And I'm like, I'm literally peeing as we speak. And so then I ran to the bathroom, and then it was already too late that I just had time to change tights and go back on Untucked. It was a very, very challenging first day. I met Nicki Minaj, who inspired my name. I got the first feeling of what it takes to like be judged by people for like 25 minutes about everything, just traumatizing. I got to sing and perform on that main stage for the first time, meet a whole cast of girls, peed on me, and then went on Untucked, and then went to bed. And I was like,
that's
what
a
happened?
big day.
It was a big day. It was a big pee too.
Did you ever see that video of Fergie when she was like with the Black Eyed Peas and she went out, I think she was like Central Park or something, and she couldn't hold in her pee, and then all of a sudden you just see it like...
No.
So I'm glad you didn't have that moment.
No, yeah, thank God. The good thing about drag is that we have 5 to 6 pair of tights. So I just got to maybe the first 3. But I was almost there, baby. You almost saw it.
And my last question for you is, what are some words of wisdom or encouragement that you just have for our LGBTQIA+ community?
What I would say is these are both the best times ever and the worst time ever, because we got so privileged by having rights to, get married, having rights to adopt, having rights to have access to healthcare and treatment that we need, either if we want to transition and things like this. But at the same time, we're getting backlash to a level of hate that we haven't had for a while. So I'm sure it's a little disturbing for the newer generation that evolved in a society where it was easier than ours, and then get that amount of hate that we're used to, we haven't seen for a while, but they're not used to it. So then it must be traumatizing I can't even imagine what it is to be a trans kid right now. So I would just say to, stick to the people that love you and understand that most of what you see and the hate that you receive is just a way to switch the topic from the things that actually matters and things that they do not want to see change. So it has nothing to do with you, baby. Just keep going and get even more queer. Fuck them.
There you go. And if you need to, put on drag and perform so you can figure out who you are on the inside, like you said.
Exactly. But don't ever listen to Boots Are Made for Walking.
Yeah, don't ever do that. Don't ever lip sync to that song.
No. Or Hard to Break by Kim Petras.
Well, thank you so much, Nicky Doll, for being here and chatting with me. Where can everybody find you on the social medias?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, at the Nicky Doll, TheNickydOll, on Venmo too. And yeah, my YouTube channel has my latest music videos, and stay tuned for Drag Race France. That's going to be available on Wow Prison Plus and on one streaming platform very soon for the documentary that I've been talking about.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, I'm Joseph Shepard. This has been Exposed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that good stuff. Let me know your favorite part down below. And also let me know who you want to see sit in this hot seat next. You know? Who do
Let
you
us
want
know.
Who do you want to replace Nicky?
Yeah. Tell us.
Until next time, I'll see you guys later. I'm Joseph Shepard, and
Bye.
that's the fabulous Nicky Doll.